Hey everyone, welcome back here to my channel where I play Planet Zoo. Today we are back in King Island Zoo and we are building for this Southern Cassowary. It isn't exactly local to King Island, but we are in the top layer of Oceanica and the very most southeastern part of Asia. So it is local adjacent at least. So, if you want to learn a little bit about the Southern Cassowary or simply see how I built this habitat, then please keep watching. Before we get too much into it, I will just say, as some of you can see, I have a new form factor here because I tried to record it on my new laptop. Still playing on my stationary, but playing over my laptop, and I will also try edit and make voiceover on my laptop. So if things looks a little different or sound a little different, that's probably why. And if there's anything really weird I haven't noticed, please tell me in the comment section. And otherwise, like small things, I will hopefully get around to fixing them soon. As some of you guys know, I'm not always that quick with fixing things, but I do the best I can. This habitat actually originated without the animal, being that I designed this form factor for the habitat without having a specific animal in mind. I want in this zoo because we have the opportunity to make a lot of aquatic animals in here. I want this underwater viewing experience where you can go through a tunnel and see quite a few. And I had this idea with ending it either with a beach or a swamp or some kind of still water but more shallow water, so it would look like it kind of merge into it. And I think the cassowary is a really good choice because yes, it is a tropical animal when we look at the climate zones. Yes, it is from Papua New Guinea, being in Southeast Asia, and Queensland, which is the very top of Australia. And yes, they do live in forest, rainforest, and savanna biomes, but they do also live in swamps. And I think that's something that's easily forgotten when you build a habitat. This will not be a really gooey swamp because I still want it to fit with the rest of the zoo, with being very light and tropical and beachy vibe. But I just want to give a little feel of it. That's also why when I go with the wood here, we choose some really gray wood compared to what we else have went with. But still in the lighter coloration because I really wanted to work with the rest of the zoo, but still being kind of having this feel of everything being a little more wet and a little more gooey and a little less pretty in a way. The habitat is, beside that point, built extremely much for this Southern Cassowary. Keep in mind that we want to split the parents up because one of the parents don't usually have anything to do with the kids, so we want to make it possible to split that ones up. And just in general, these are fairly aggressive animals and having quite a few useful weapons at hand. We really want that opportunity to split them up, so that's of course something we really need here. We also need everything to be a little strong. I actually noticed later on that the windows I'm gonna put in here, they're actually able to jump through those where I don't use glass. So I know I didn't feel like changing it. But I am aware that they can actually do that. Anyway, most animals, humans included, mainly have two responses to fear, being fight or flight. The cassowary do also have these two, and they have a weapon made for each. If they need to flight, being fleeing, running away as fast as they can, it could be a weapon good enough just being able to run 50 kilometers per hour, which is really goddamn fast. It is actually equivalent to 31 miles per hour for my American audience. So yeah, once again, feel fairly fast. So everyone hitting that while they run would be knocked out of there real fast. But they have a weapon. They have this bone structure. I think it's called a casquez or something like that. I'm not sure how to pronounce it in English. Um, but it's basically this bone horn they have on top of their head that they just will bend head forwards when they need to flee like this, and just use that to knock everything out of the area when they run. It is more so made to protect the face, of course, the brain being very, very important for most animals. So therefore, literally, they can just any bush or plants or anything like that, they can knock out of there. But they can, of course, also if they hit a animal, knock that pretty much out really fast based on which animal it is and where they hit them. The other weapon is their legs, and their legs are a killer. They are built out of muscle. A lot of bird legs are really, really are actually so thin and hollow, so you can basically just break them with your bare hands. Don't do it, but you can. Um, but the cassowaries are just built to have this really big, strong nature in their legs. Therefore, they can kick, um, of course, kick people. They can scratch with the claws on the legs, but they can also actually jump and use their entire bottle as a projectile, as a weapon. And once again, with this bonish horn structure on their head, these are fairly dangerous animals. And keep in mind, once again, these actually have a top height of 1.8 meters, being 5.9 feet. Really tall beasts. Much taller than me. I know some people are taller, but I'm pretty sure even if you are 2 meter high person, 6.6 feet, you will still be intimidated by this giant bird. However, these legs also have other features. One being that in these swamps areas, they can actually go through pretty high water without even getting their feathers wet. And if they need to, they can also swim across the water. I will mention though, these do not have webbed feet like, for instance, duck do, and they will not propel themselves forwards with wings like we see with penguins, but they will more like doing the doggy pedal. And everyone who have learned to swim knows that that's not the most effective way of propelling yourself forward trying to swim, but it will work. It will do the job. It will probably just take a little longer. The water area I put down over here is only temporary because, as you know, I like to build those into buildings so we don't have to look at it. But for now, it just have to be here so we can actually give fresh water to our cassowaries. Looking at these giant birds, the thought of dinosaur is not too far off, and with that, I actually wouldn't have been shocked if they ate things like smaller mammals or something like that, because a lot of dinosaurs look like these and were carnivores, so it again wouldn't shock me. However, looking at this, they are officially herbivores, more specifically frugivores, meaning that they eat fruit. But they will also, which means it's not their main diet, but they can choose to eat it if they get their beak on it. They eat invertebrates and vertebrates and carrion, so it pretty much they eat meat as long as they don't have to actually do anything to get it. The cassowary actually have a quite unique mating system. We have talked a lot about mating systems, but this is really unique, I think. I have heard about a few other animals that do kind of the same, but not this exact way. During mating season, which will change a little bit of where they're from. If they're Queensland, then they have a firm mating season between June and October. However, from New Guinea, they will be based on nature. So at the end of the dry season, their mating season will start because they need to have enough water and food and such to actually sustain laying eggs and taking care of eggs, and the hatchlings should have enough food and such, so they need to wait till that dry season is over. However, the mating season is kind of long because most of egg-laying animals just need to fertilize a few eggs and then they will lay a clutch, and then that's that. The female cassowary does a little more than laying one clutch of eggs because she will go and listen for the male to do a boo 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 sound. Yeah, sorry, I just read it here. I'm not sure that's how it sounds, but it's what it says here. But she will listen for that sound, and when she hear a male do it, she will go to him, mate with him, and give him a clutch of eggs, which would be around 3 to 5 eggs on average. Leave him this clutch of eggs in a nice little nest, and then she will listen and hear if there's any other males around. And then she will go and find one of those and give him a little clutch of eggs. And so on. So these are polyandrous, but it will mainly be the female having multiple mating partners for a season. Of course, based on if they, by luck, just get back to the same partner next year, or probably there will be a new female coming by next year. So the males will also have multiple partners, but when he have his clutch of eggs, then he won't call for another. His main priority is then those eggs. And the female will never see them again and never care for them at all. The male will then lay on the eggs, keep them warm, take care of them, make sure they don't break, make sure they are humidity and all of these kind of things, taking care of all of that. And then after about 50 days, the eggs will hatch. The hatchlings then will stay with the dad for about 9 months. And again, these hatchlings will need food, protection, again, warmth, humidity under the feathers of their dad for a lot of this time. And he will be the sole caretaker for them in all of this time. It's not to give the male more credit than I would give a female. What I just want to mention here is that I find it extremely fascinating that nature have found so many different ways to be the right way of taking care of babies. Because if there were only one functional way of taking care of babies in the animal kingdom, well, then all animals that is still alive today and haven't died out, they would all do it the same way, but they do not, because nature is just really amazing of developing so many different ways of doing the same thing, and I think it's so beautiful to think about. I will just mention that this exact way of doing things is probably a little bit easier with animals where the mom doesn't need to produce milk for the babies, because then it's kind of an issue that she leaves. But since she doesn't actually do, like, there's nothing the female at that point can do for the eggs that the males aren't able to do. So if it works, it works, and it certainly works for them, so why not? Just a build comment here. In this area where I make this flower bed, there's something every time my camera entered this area, it just started lagging the game so badly. It's only around this flower bed, nowhere else on the map. So I think I edited most of it out, but there will be small bumps and jumps in the camera work, and I did the best I could to limit it, but I understand if you find it frustrating. Here I just turn off climbing on everything in this area just to see if it helps. It did help a little, but not that much. that being said, some of the trees I'm gonna put down right here, it's also climbable, so I probably should do it again after that, but I think I forgot. Every foliage I put in here, I could have gone really, really creative, but the thing is, the cassowaries would break 99% of the foliage. If they were in a forest or something, it wouldn't be an issue because they would move over these big distances, so they just wouldn't be heavy and walking around in the same small area all the time. But they would here, so they would break everything. They will also run around where they literally will kick up every kind of root system, small plants, flowers, and all of that. So even though they wouldn't necessarily eat all of the plants around, they would certainly damage it. So I limit the foliage to either trees that have big trunks that could either withstand the cassowary, or simply the cassowary would walk around or make sure not to hit when they run around. Or else I put foliage in here that are somewhat protected. For instance, within the fence, where they wouldn't run through the fence, of course, so the foliage is more protected. Over here on the water, I wanted to have a little bit of the swamp effect, not too much. So I used a little bit of the stockweed and then some leaf litter on some of it. Make it really, really light and minute. I kind of wanted to give more of a gooey effect. Then I wanted to be like a green effect, and I also really needed to turn down the color of this dogweed. I know it has this color in some countries. The ones we have here in Denmark is more like dark green. So it looks very different where I am, but it was just the best two things I could find to do this with. I also changed the color of the water to just make it look a little more murky, which will probably be a little frustrating when you come from the tunnel side, but then you get a look through this dark water, and probably we would have a few fish in there, maybe some neon fish with some color pops, because again the cassowaries wouldn't care. We just don't have that in the game, and I don't have any fish much right now, but that would have been great to have something that really have a shine or really have a color down there peeping through that dark murky water. And then when you get up you can see the house, and you can see the cassowaries and the habitat, and it just goes into this more tropical feeling nicely, I think. I hope. To see if a lifestyle for an animal actually is useful and is working, you of course need to take a lot of things into account. For instance, you can't not simply look at the numbers, but you also need to compare them with things that is not within their hands. For instance, in these regions of New Guinea and Queensland, there is less and less tropical with coastal lowland or rainforest every year. It get knocked down just like it is in the rest of the world, and that is probably the biggest threat for the cassowary at this point. However, from this deforestation, then issue are kind of running in a few directions that is afflicted by this deforestations. One thing is clearly being that the forest or wetlands or here where they live are being chopped up to pieces. So therefore, we are fragmenting the cassowaries, and the genetic material won't be able to be spread as easily, and you will over time have inbred animals. Furthermore, you may not remove the home of the cassowary, but you remove the patches where they feast, and therefore they will not have a sufficient food source or may not have access to clean water. Again, water is not always water. It needs to be some amount of clean for them to actually being healthy drinking it. Keep in mind that if they live in a swamp water will still be clean compared to something you and I probably wouldn't drink it, but for a lot of animals, it's a lot healthier than, for instance, polluted water. Greenland is an area where there slowly over time have come more and more people to live. And especially in later years, a lot of people have preferred moving to Queensland, which overall seems like a great thing. But more people equals more cars, and more cars equal more car accidents. And these are taking care of a fair amount of Southern Cassowaries. It isn't listed here, but I would assume that if you hit something this big, there is a fair chance that you or someone in the car, or at least the car, also will take a beating, and we don't want that either. Furthermore, humans moving to the areas will also bring more dogs, which will basically just feed on animals in the area, and specifically these small fledglings for the Southern Cassowary will be a nice little treat for a big hungry dog. Furthermore, focusing a little more on New Guinea, a lot of areas actually depend on the cassowaries as a food source, and therefore they are heavily hunted. All of these things could actually hurt the cassowary, even though they otherwise would be going fine based on how they live and how they fit in the ecosystem. What is really, really impressive is that the uh, population size is estimated for mature individuals, being individuals that are able to breed and therefore actually add to the population. A total number is at this point 20,000 to 49,000. That's a hell of a lot if you think about they only live in two fairly small areas of the world. And therefore, of course, according to the IUCN Red List, these are least concerned animals, which is highly impressive if you look at how many odds they have stacked against them. And this just shows that this whole entire idea of making the dad the sole provider for the kids isn't really that crazy at all. It wouldn't work for all animals, of course, but here it clearly does. Going a little bit back to the build here, as you can see here, I tried to make this opening that will be where you go down or come up from the aquatic turtle, and this will not be completely done today. Also, if you look on the path on top, it will not look finished, and that's because we will have a habitat on the other side of this. We will have on the other side of the upper path and such, and I want to be able to actually go in and make changes while I build those habitats, so I won't finish it off now. I just want to have the idea of it now. Also, this build took a hell of a lot of time compared to some of the others I do, so yeah. But now I at least have a general idea of what it's gonna look like, and I have a feeling of what I want to do with it. As some of you guys know, I actually am really fascinating with history. Of course, not all or so. I'm also very fascinated with like the Roman Empire, the Vikings, and a lot of stuff. But one of the things is, of course, zoo history, and there's actually not a lot about it. But we have to talk about before here on my channel that the original zoos were actually private petting zoos for royals that got gifted exotic animals by other rulers around the world. And the first cassowary in Europe actually came as a gift for the Emperor Rudolf II's animal collection. And that was in 1597. Yes, it's awful, especially because we have talked about, especially before World War II, zoos, even official zoos, didn't really keep animals in anything better than just four walls and a roof. So I'm not a fan of it, but it is really fascinating, the idea of gifting different kinds of royalty of leaders with animals that for the giver of often wouldn't be um anything exotic at all. For instance, we have a white bear that, from my viewpoint, must have been a polar bear, but that probably wasn't known at that time. Uh, it was from Norway, where they have polar bears, and it was a gift to a English king where I do not think they have polar bears. So, yeah, uh, very easily just go out in the wild, collect an animal, and give as a royal gift. It's kind of wacky to think about, but it's also kind of amazing. And again, without all of these of original royal zoos, we probably wouldn't have zoos the way we have them today, because a lot of zoos actually started with a way for royals to showcase their animals from the for the common people. So history wise, for zoos and for a lot of the conservation work we do today, it have been so important part of it. There is a common belief. I'm not sure if it's like all on New Guinea, but or if it's some group of people or something. But it is listed as some people living in these areas actually believe that the cassowaries are reincarnations of their female ancestors. Not just ancestors is the female, and others do believe that this bird was the first mother. And I find this extremely fascinating because normally, if we picture women from the past, or especially mothers, grandmothers, they are most of the time depicted as these soft, uh, clever, rounded, hugging creatures, uh, beautiful by nature, of course, which the cassowary definitely is. But the idea of it being this kind of aggressive, not kind of, definitely aggressive, people killing animal that you compare to your female ancestors. I'm not sure if it just shows what how some people see women, or if it's something deeper that I simply do not understand. I will admit both is definitely a possibility. And again, if some of you guys know anything about this, and or where it comes from, or what the meaning more specifically is, then please comment section below. It is there for you guys, and I love learning more about this. Once again, all animals facts are good facts, but the weird and wacky animals facts are just a little bit better. And this was the point of my build where I noticed that I actually haven't put any trash cans or donation boxes, or even any information about the animals down here yet. So we just gonna do that here real quick. I went with the blue for the tropical water, this very light kind of turquoise blue, a little bit of green in there, and then some orange with the lava rocks that I really want to work more with down here, definitely. But for now, guys, I think all that's left to say for now is basically just to enjoy these cinematics that will start in 10 seconds, and I will of course come back afterwards. Okay, everyone, that's all I got for you today. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know there was a little with the glitching here in the cinematics. I do believe that's from the recording and not from the game. So I need to look at what I can do about that at least. Anyway, for now, all there's left to say is you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you know the next time I upload a video. I really hope to see you again, either in the comments below or in the next video. Bye guys!